members. And the moderator is Ruslan Strindberg, Director of Institute of Economy of the Russian Academy of Sciences.
Esteemed colleagues, I would like to introduce a person who doesn't need to be presented and introduced, Professor Immanuel Wallerstein, and I'd like to ask a question to him, maybe unexpected. Do you see any outlines of a new model of life on this planet, not exactly related to economy? Do you see something in future? So, do you see something which is covered by time, as one poet is saying?
I shall answer you in the course of my remarks. Let me say that, given the fact that I have so little time, I'm going to say a lot of controversial things without giving you the justification for much of it. So I start by giving you two references where you can find my views elaborated in greater detail. I wrote an article that was published in 2010 in New Left Review, March, April. It was called Structural Crises. And that was 3 years ago. And I have just written an article which has the title, Structural Crisis, or Why Capitalists No Longer Find Capitalism Rewarding. And it will appear in a book that Oxford University Press is bringing out at the end of this year with 5 scholars debating the issue, does capitalism have a future? So you can read my views in greater detail in the justification. In the time that I have, I want to make 5 points and make them strongly. First of all, I believe we are in a full-scale depression, and it is worldwide. All countries, without exception, are pulling inward in a general attitude of sauve qui peut. That's French for everybody for himself. That's the first point I want to make. The second point is the rise and fall of stocks and bonds and their shifting exchange rates, etc., is irrelevant as a measure of what's going on in the world. The only true measures, is first of all worldwide unemployment, which is high, going up, and is much higher than the official figures for all sorts of reasons which I could elaborate. And secondly, as a consequence, effective demand is going down, 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 and is the most serious problem for capitalists today. My third point is that capitalism as a historical system is in structural crisis. It cannot survive, not only because of the opposition that comes from below, which is a constant and has been there for a long time and has gotten worse recently, but because from the top, capitalists no longer find capitalism as profitable or even profitable to them in the long run from production. Fourth, this structural crisis started circa 1970, not circa 2008, and will last probably another 20 to 40 years. It is a long process of transition. Meanwhile, in that long period, there are wild fluctuations and ever wilder, ever increasing short-term uncertainties, right? Which means that we are moving far, far, far from equilibrium. And as a result of that, there is what the scientists of complexity call bifurcations. There is a bifurcation in which the world system as a whole is faced with 2 alternative ways of resolving this chaotic situation. One of those alternative ways is some non-capitalist system that, however, replicates, maybe reinforces the worst features of capitalism as a historical system, which is hierarchy, exploitation, and polarization. That is one possible alternative. The second possible alternative is a relatively democratic, relatively egalitarian system, which I must underline has never existed anywhere in the history of the world, but which is possible, right? And what one can say in a situation of bifurcation and chaos is it is intrinsically impossible to predict the outcome. We do not know today, and no one knows, and no one can know, which of the two options will be collectively, in quotation marks, collectively by the world chosen. But on the other hand, it is true that we have a great capacity to affect the outcome because the system will tilt in one direction or the other as a result of an infinity of nano-actions at an infinity of nano-moments by an infinity of nano-actors. We are all those nano-actors. And therefore, what we do and how we act in the next 10, 20, 30 years will affect the possible outcome of the system. So that's basically my message is, we're in a big, big mess. It's not under our control to stop it. There are no short-term solutions. And there are no way, we may minimize the damage by various measures, such as those that my friend just spoke of, but we may minimize the damage in the interim, but we cannot transform the system. We cannot reform the system in some significant way. It is on its way out, and everything that's occurring now is making it worse. Indeed, and I may perhaps make this the last minor point, the very existence of the BRIC powers and their seeming momentary successes on the economic front is actually reinforcing the negative element for capitalists as a group worldwide, because it is spreading the existing surplus value into smaller and smaller pieces, and therefore affecting the possibility of genuinely accumulating capital, which is the whole objective of the system. Thank you.
Спасибо, профессор. Это удивительный пример правильного соблюдения
of sticking to the timing of our agenda.
нашего расписания.